Okay, welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Ceremony. I'm Laura Crockett, your host and mentor at the Academy of Modern Celebrancy. And I'm very excited because today we are going way up north into Scotland. And I am joined by the fabulous Niki Smith, who is the chair of Fulcrum Celebrants. Hi, Nikki.
Hi, Laura. I hope it's a lot sunnier down there than it is here because it is dreich.
Yeah, it's not much better down here, Nikki. Maybe slightly. We had a bit of sunshine this morning, but it's this time of year, isn't it? It's just a bit rubbish. So how are you doing, Nikki?
It sure is. I'm good. I'm quieter part of the year,
Yes.
kind of coming down. Quiet for everybody, for all celebrants. Quieter part of the year. So yeah, now time to reframe and revisit and plan and do all those things. But good, yeah, I'm really good.
Absolutely. I saw a fantastic reel that one of my colleagues shared the other day, and it was basically saying wedding season's over, we're ready to hibernate, but then you start thinking, right, marketing, tax return, SEO, website, networking, and it was so good. It was Laura Gimpson. Go and check it out, but it was really, really funny. So, Nikki, for those that don't know you, just give us a little bit of an introduction into you and a little bit about you and your journey as a celebrant so far.
Okay, I started as a celebrant about 6 years ago now, excuse me, and I retired early from work, and one day I went to a funeral and I thought, oh, I could do this. And that was the kind of first introduction to it. Very quickly, I kind of moved into weddings, and I did, from January to March of that year, I did about, I don't know, maybe about 6, 7, 8 wedding fairs.
Wow.
And I became fully booked for 2 years, but I didn't know I was. But I just thought when all these lovely couples were coming up and talking to you and you were writing their names against a date, I didn't honestly think they'd all come back, Laura.
Well, they don't always, Nikki. And they did they?
I was just like, oh, this is a wee thing that you do, and people put their names down, and they'll probably put their names down with hundreds of people. So basically within that 3 months, I was kind of fully booked, which was a bit mind-blowing, you know.
Gosh.
I didn't know about the industry, I didn't know what I was doing, I just really was a bit out. But anyway, I've always worked with people.
Yeah.
And I've always done public speaking. So you put the two of them together and it was going to be something, you know. Anyway, so very quickly as well, the funerals I realised, because of the quantity of weddings I had, the funerals I found I couldn't get the turnaround time.
Yes, yeah, too much.
Too much, so I ended up channeling any weddings. I was originally with another authorised organisation in Scotland.
Yeah.
But already was part of an organisation that I had been part of for about 20 years. And I just suddenly had a eureka moment and thought, why am I not attaching celebrants to this belief group?
Yeah, absolutely.
Instead of, and then I am wholly and utterly doing this on the basis of my own beliefs. Fulcrum Celebrants was born in 2021.
Wow.
So there's now 9 of us. So yeah.
This is amazing. So you touched a little bit on that. So tell me how that kind of works with that side of it in Scotland. So you're part of a belief group, is that correct? And then that's how you kind of then from that have the power to legally marry. So talk to me a little bit more about that, Nikki.
Yeah, in Scotland there are only four broad categories that can officially legally marry people: clergy, registrar, belief group, faith group, and there are also interfaith groups.
Yeah.
In Scotland, you cannot be given authorisation to solemnise a marriage unless you are part of one of these blanket organisations.
Yes. So that's the thing. Oh, there's so many questions I want to ask you, Nikki. There's honestly just so much. And I think that is exactly why we wanted to do this episode, because at AMC we get those questions all the time, that if they come and do a course with us, does that mean they can then legally marry? And of course the answer is no. So we can give them that incredible training on how to be a great celebrant. We can give them all the ins and outs they need to know. And that's wherever you are. You know, we have students from all over the world taking our course on how to be a celebrant. But just because you have done your training to be a qualified celebrant doesn't mean that wherever you live, automatically that means that you can then do it legally. So if England does end up adopting a system that's similar to Scotland, can you talk us through how that kind of works? So say, for example, somebody like myself who's a fully trained celebrant, but I haven't done anything that means that actually I would be able to legally marry. What were the steps that I would need to take if that was something that I wanted to try and pursue?
And just to focus on the English scenario just now, I would imagine that across the board, correct me if I'm wrong, Laura, across the board it is the humanists that the government is looking at authorising.
Yeah.
Okay, so effectively the government would provide Humanist Society, England, whatever, they would provide them they would furnish them with the ability to authorise celebrants. And as such, to be honest, Laura, they would have a criteria with it, but perhaps they will introduce a training programme that the Humanist Society will bring in specifically to allow. I don't think it should automatically be a rite of passage that if you are a celebrant delivering ceremonies in England, that you automatically gain authorisation.
Yeah, yeah.
And there's a lot of reasons for that, as I'm sure you know, because there is different standards of celebrant. Same as everywhere.
Yes, absolutely.
So I dare say that they would have to create a format.
Yes.
Whereby the existing celebrants, like yourself, you have a tremendous track record, Laura. You know, you then would go and there would need to be, I think, what do I know, but I would think there would need to be a procedure that would need to be gone through and adhered to allow you then to get that authorisation.
Yeah, to get that accreditation almost. Yeah, absolutely. Because I think that's the thing, when we've all been talking about it and discussing it, obviously there's so many questions and there's not really a set way of how it's going to work at the moment, whether whether the government's going to adapt a system similar to Scotland, similar to Ireland, or whether they're going to look more at Jersey and Guernsey, who independent celebrants can legally marry there, but they have to be going overseen, I think, by the registrars, things like that. So we don't really know too much at the moment, but what we've heard is that when marriage law reform comes into force, humanists will be given those legal rights to marry, which is fantastic and a great step in the right direction. And then they will also be looking at other belief-based groups. So that's where it makes me think perhaps they will follow suit more like Scotland. And do you remember a time before all that happened, or has it been the whole time that you've been a celebrant, it's been the case that you have been able to legally marry too?
Yeah, it's for the whole time. I believe I don't know, this could be absolute rubbish, but I think
Nikki, this is the place for it.
Absolutely. I think we're going back to maybe 2005, when the Humanist Society were given sort of thing. Just in your last point, not to veer off on a tangent, but don't get me wrong, Fulcrum Celebrants are an amazing belief group. But we do not provide training for a variety of reasons.
Yeah.
What I would say for the English contingent, you could do worse than follow the HSS model in Scotland.
Yeah.
It's very thorough. It has all of particularly in terms of follow-up, mentoring, training, shadowing, all this type of stuff. They have all of that in place extremely robustly.
Yes. And
so for me, I think and I would be having a different conversation with you. I would be saying, Fulcrum and HSS, but we don't do training.
Yeah.
But they have a model that I think is a really good starting point for you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And then how does it work at Fulcrum Celebrant? So talk to me about that. Obviously, you set this up, which is absolutely fantastic. So just, tell me a little bit more about Fulcrum Celebrants.
Okay, Fulcrum Celebrants, basically, as I say, I had already been part of a group. We didn't call ourselves a belief group.
Yeah.
But we were a group of, and are a group of people who inadvertently started coming together with the same ideas and the same values, although we weren't calling them that at the time.
Yeah.
And we would go out, and it started all with one person coming forward and saying, I know of a family here, and I think if collectively we intervene, we're going to make a difference to their lives.
Yes, yes.
And from there, that kind of expanded. So as a group of people, there's about 20 out with the Celebrants, and as a group of people, we all come from different communities, we do still identify and support and signpost and intervene where we see that we can make a difference.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the foundation of Fulcrum. Again, it wasn't called Fulcrum. It didn't have, we didn't know we were living to, so anyway, in comes 2020 lockdown. And this is when I thought, why am I not allowing I'm a celebrant. Why am I not giving the opportunity to other celebrants? Because our belief system is quite different.
Yeah.
It is quite different. It's about common purpose. It's about paying it forward. It's about integrity. It's about equality. It's about also collectively, I just wanted to see other celebrants that would be doing the same as me.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
and I bet a lot of them out there, because those values, are something that a lot of people would hold very highly.
Absolutely, but there wasn't anything else out there that quite covered this, which was so earthy. It was less notional and more practical.
Yeah.
It was more, I don't know, evidence-based, whatever. But anyway, so in 2020, myself and that group sat down. We are still talking, because I can't tell you how long it takes. You know what you do, you know the good you do, you know the belief you have, you know what trajectory, and then you all sit down at a table and you're going, is it that? Yeah. Right. So after months of battering it out, we established our purpose, our aims, our objectives, our values, and that's where then this is where Fulcrum Celebrants were attached to the Fulcrum Foundation. And the reason Fulcrum was picked as a name is because it is a pivotal thing that makes a difference in any situation, agenda, place, time.
Oh, no way,
that's what
really?
a Fulcrum is.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness me. And then, so as a celebrant that can obviously legally marry in Scotland, do you do that at every ceremony, or do you still do ceremonies where perhaps they don't do the legal part then as well, and they've maybe done that separately?
No. The only time I would do a non-legal ceremony is if it's a vow renewal.
Yeah.
If they have come from abroad, and since 2020 it's become more prohibitive for couples to get visas and to get married over here.
Yeah.
So I have one celebrant, Andrew, he does a lot of international weddings.
Yes.
And within that, he will do a lot of non-legal ceremonies because his couples will have taken care of the legals. And to be honest, international couples they're like England. They're quite happy to go and get their legals done and then come and get them.
Absolutely. Yeah, it happens quite a lot, and especially here, because I'm in the Cotswolds. Loads of people come from like America, and they've already done it in America, but they want that English countryside wedding, so they come over here, and the legal bit's already done, and that's why they're definitely like, we want a celebrant all the way, because then we can just do what we want to do without having to worry about that side of it as well.
Exactly, and we have, whilst we do illegal ceremonies, there is quite a lot of scope within the ceremony we deliver, because I know because you're celebrants that don't do legal, you have no boundaries or barriers in what you do within a ceremony.
Absolutely.
Registrars, on the other hand, do, but we as a belief group, or a faith group, or the Humanists, have to agree a form of ceremony with Edinburgh General Registrar, who provides the authorisation.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But to be honest, it's a declaration that you have to say without changing, the pronouncement have to say without changing, your belief statement. So, but within that,
you can do everything
the scope's
else.
endless.
There's that flexibility. That's so good, because I think that is one of the concerns here in England, that if, when marriage law reform comes into force, if we are authorised to legally marry, there are some concerns that then that will mean there's a lot of restrictions. But it's quite refreshing to hear that that's not the case.
I'll just put a caveat in there. All of the humanist organisations do have a caveat, and the caveat is that they cannot include religious content.
Yes, absolutely. That's the same as it is here, and that's exactly like when I was talking to Russell Sandberg, who was on the episode where we were talking about marriage law reform. He's a professor of law, and I was saying actually on paper, you look at a humanist ceremony and you look at an independent celebrant ceremony, and they're very similar anyway. It's very hard to tell the difference. But one of the big differences is that with an independent celebrant, you can include religion in there. So I've had couples who, are same-sex couples that couldn't marry at the church. They wanted to have a religious feel to their ceremony. Or I've just had, some couples that have wanted to include a religious reading, and that's all okay. And that's, something that we can incorporate. How does that work for you in Scotland? Are you able to incorporate different religions and cultures and things like that?
Absolutely, yeah. And another reason, the truth of the matter is I'm not a humanist, and the people that are in Fulcrum aren't humanists.
Yeah.
So it would be just a mockery.
Yes.
To just go and join an organisation. And maybe this is why we're still really small. But
yeah, but I like it.
You really just need to actually believe what you're saying you believe. Mm-hmm. Part of the reason that one of the things for us was that we didn't want to preclude anybody we didn't want to have to say no to anything that people wanted. Yes. And we have that. We marry same sex, any gender, any anything at all. We can do it. We can do it. That sounded like a sales.
I get it. We can do it. I'm your girl. Anything you want, I'm your girl. But I totally get it, and I agree, because that's exactly why I didn't train as a humanist celebrant. There are so many things about humanism that I think are fantastic, and so many of the values are things that align with my own already. Like, it's about being a great person and a nice human, and I think it's a fantastic belief system. But to me, something that was very important is that I'm led by my couples and their beliefs. And especially, those multi-faith couples, interfaith couples, that kind of thing. Like, I think for me, it's about them and their wedding day. So actually, if they want to include some of their own religion in there, then they should be able to. So that was definitely something. And exactly like you said, for me to then turn around and go, oh, humanists might be able to legally marry, I'm going to go and retrain as a humanist. It wouldn't be right, because it's not something that I am looking for, being able to offer those things to couples that an independent celebrant can do. And I think that is definitely where the difference is. And one of the things I wanted to ask you, Nikki, because this kind of made me smile when I was doing the episode with Russell. One of the concerns in Parliament about, marriage law reform, and if they open it up to all celebrants, is that they want to make sure that it's serious and dignified. Would you say that as a non-humanist celebrant, any of your ceremonies are undignified or unserious, or, like that term, it's so subjective. But Russell and I were kind of saying how I can't imagine seeing an undignified wedding ceremony. I don't think any celebrants I know would ever offer something like that.
As an individual, I can be hugely undignified sometimes.
But that's in your playtime. What about your work time?
Playtime. Yeah, I mean, I to a certain extent, I would. Yeah, I think it's an understanding of the role, because what I would challenge unserious. So people have. Yeah, I know. Sorry, on you go.
No, that's okay. It was just, that was one of the things that they've said. They want to make sure that the ceremonies are always serious and dignified. So then it's kind of like, well, why wouldn't they be? But I guess serious is the one that you think, well, yeah, you do have fun in a ceremony, but when you need to be serious, so for example, the parts you spoke about, the legal parts with the declarations and, things like that, they're the parts that you would be more serious, because they are the more serious parts. But does that mean you then can't have fun with the personal side of it too?
Absolutely not. I mean, God, absolutely not. And I think as well, I think there's a struggle here for people who are making decisions to actually be clear about what they actually want.
Yes.
I'll give you one example before I go back to serious. We have one up here, profit and gain. You are not allowed to be seen to be profit and gaining from weddings, from legalising, solemnising weddings.
Yes.
Brilliant. So absolutely none of my celebrants would upsell offer additional services, sell any products that they've got, they don't. The only thing that they charge money for is the creation and delivery of a ceremony.
Yes, absolutely.
However, when there are no, this is my interpretation of this. There needs to be stronger guidelines and clarity on what actually is required of people who are legally authorised to solemnise marriages.
Yeah.
And exactly what you're saying, Laura, about dignified and serious, because I'll tell you, dignified and serious are huge words.
Yes.
And what are they saying that with serious, I understand you're never going to make a ceremony a stand-up comedy show.
Yeah, exactly.
So why would they pick? I think there's much more about how wedding ceremonies and what the rules, and you guys are walking right into this. There needs to be absolute clarity, because a lot of the time up in Scotland, you could talk to 10 celebrants and 10 celebrants would have a different idea about what the rules are.
Yeah, of course, I bet. There's a lot of blurred lines.
And what's the management of that? What's the patrolling of that? And, our General Registrar's office is brilliant. They're brilliant, but they are small. There was 27,000 weddings in Scotland last year. They're small, but I also hope that when England moves forward, that Scotland also does a root and branch review.
Yeah.
But do you know what I would love, Laura?
Yeah, go on.
Do you know what I would love?
What?
I would love if I'm authorised to marry people, I can do it in England.
Yes.
You're authorised to marry, you can do it in Scotland. How amazing would that be?
Just UK-wide would be so good. Imagine, Nikki, we could come and do a little pair up. I can come and hang out with you for a couple of weeks. You can come down and hang out with me. It'd be great fun. Nikki, it'd be brilliant.
But why could that not, for me that just, we know that common sense, that we don't think common sense prevails a lot of the time, but, and the other thing is, I'll stop in a minute, Laura. The other thing
I don't mind, keep going, I love it.
This system in Scotland has not been reviewed for years.
Yes, yeah.
Time has moved on. People have moved on. Expectations, desires, environment, social environments have changed. And the legislation needs to change to match that.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
And I hope this seismic move down south encourage you, because I'll tell you, if General Registrar Scotland's listening, I can come and sit at your table, because I would love to be involved in reviewing this process.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Let's not go on about it.
No, but I think that's the thing. There's so much to be done in terms of education. And like you said, the people who are making the decisions a lot of the time maybe aren't aware of the ins and outs of how it all works. So actually, it's for us as celebrants to be showing them, examples of work that we've done in the past, examples of ceremonies that we've led for people, and being able to give our couples that choice. That's the most important thing. So yeah, honestly, couldn't we just go on about it? We could write a book about it, Nikki. There's just so much to talk about, isn't there? Honestly. So let's focus on you then, Nikki, as a celebrant. So what about any, particularly standout ceremonies that you've had that you've absolutely loved over the years? Is there anything that you really think, oh yeah, that was totally a career highlight?
Oh, Laura, how can you ask that question?
It down.
If I was to be perfectly honest about this, and I know this sounds really kind of crass, I have been in the most astonishing venues with the thousands of pounds being spent, whatever. I am telling you, and I'm telling you genuinely, a wedding for me becomes a landmark wedding pure and simply because of the couple.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so
Nothing
true.
else. Nothing else. You could give me a wedding in Buckingham Palace with a royal, and that wouldn't be any better than doing one in somebody's back garden in Govan.
Yeah.
For me, the whole thing about this, the trappings don't impress me. The trappings, I don't look I don't have a niche. I don't have a niche. And I know a lot of people have a niche. All social media people
Yeah,
are
they
going,
tell
oh,
you
you've
you
not got
need
a
a
niche.
niche. Yeah, who's your ideal client?
I've not
You
got a
need your
niche.
niche.
I don't have one because it is absolute. You put me anywhere, it's the people. The people inform what the ceremony is going to be like in terms of the vibe they have.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
the vibe you have. So, I mean, I would be sitting here all day with you, Laura.
Yeah.
I'd be saying, oh God, oh I, and oh God,
Yeah.
remember that
I
one?
love that one. Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
But I'll tell you something I could do. I could give you the name of every single couple
Yeah.
of a wedding that came
Yeah.
into my head.
It's so true, and probably a
Every
little bit
single
about
couple.
them and a little story. I always think
Oh, I could.
I think even my husband could. The amount of times I read out the scripts to him and have to check them through, and he's always like, "Oh, is that the Stonehenge couple?" And "Oh yeah, or is that the couple with the rabbits?" Or "Oh yeah, is that the ones who went to McDonald's when they got engaged?" Like, you know, he can name them all because of the amount of times I read my scripts through to him. Oh, it's brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, so what about in you know, as a role more general? What's your favourite thing about the role in general, Nikki?
God, I'm really tedious. The people.
Yeah.
I just love, you know, like yesterday I went and met a beautiful soul who has been with her partner for 22 years. They've had a crap year, sorry,
That's
rubbish
all right.
year.
No, don't worry.
And,
You're fine.
and I'm from Scotland. I'm doing really well. Not
You're
have
doing
sworn
really well.
until
We're
this.
what, we're over 25 minutes in. You're doing really well, Nikki. Well done.
But this lady decided out of the blue that she's just going to get married to her husband in the living room.
Oh my God, how special is that?
And our dad, who's not been well's there, our sister's there, and our best friend. End of story. She's moving the couches back. We're doing it in the living room. But so that's all taken care of. But I met this lady yesterday, and we were talking about life, and we were talking about the world, and we were talking about you can't beat that.
No, exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
Because the essence of a good ceremony is the connection you have with people.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing for me is I would meet half the people I've married outside, even if I wasn't married them, and talk to them.
Yeah.
Because I found them interesting and inspiring, or you sit and talk to people and they're maybe quite, and then all of a sudden they say, yeah, I jump out of planes for my hobby, I do, and you're like...
And you're like, hang on, what? Tell me more. That's so true.
Or they don't tell you something at the meeting, and then you get, I use questionnaires, and you get your questionnaire back, and they get like, they're like concert violinists or what.
Yeah. Hang on. Why didn't you talk about that? Yeah, it's so true. It's so true. I love all those surprises that you get along the way. And then in terms of that living room wedding, so the legal side of that, what requirements would you have to have for that? Do you have to have witnesses and things like that?
Yeah. The only stipulation is that you've got your 2 witnesses and that you've got authorisation. So the couple has to submit their M10s to be given approval to marry and do all the checks. I apply for authorisation at my end. And that's us. We're all good to go. On the day, I sign and they sign the marriage schedule, and then the marriage certificate's issued to the couple within a week or 2 weeks.
Oh, fantastic. So very similar then to how the registrars work here. You just can kind of incorporate that part into your ceremony. How special. That's just so lovely. Because I think really as well, it's about 1, giving couples choice, but 2, making life a bit easier for them, because the poor couples in England, if they want to use a celebrant, which, a lot of them do, actually they have to jump through so many hoops to get the legal part done, whether it be on the same day or whether they have it done before. And it can just be so much to ask of them at a time when it's already busy and, quite stressful, but also quite confusing. And I think that's something that I'm looking forward to with marriage law reform. Whether or not we're included, I think more clarity and a clearer way of things being done to make everything easier for everyone. Because even in England, county to county, it varies. We get some registrars that are fantastic and we can work alongside. And I've worked with registrars at the start of the ceremony. They've then left and I've carried on. It can be done, but then you get some registrars that absolutely not. They won't have us on site while they're there, and they have to be gone, and all these things. I just want a bit more clarity and to make life a little bit easier and also up to date, like you say. Times have changed so much now that these old rules and these
and
old laws
and you know
are so
what, Laura?
archaic.
And celebrants aren't going anywhere.
No, exactly.
People are, couples are speaking in their thousands.
Yes.
They want the freedom to do it the way they want to do it. They have spoken in thousands.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And it's an easy fix. Why can't we just have that?
Yeah.
Why can't we just have that?
I know, and I think that's the thing. I think part of, when I'm getting in touch with my MP, I'll be talking about all those examples and things like that, but also looking at the way it's done around the world, because it works for so many other places where the officiant carries the license. So surely we can just, adopt something similar here. But we shall see. It's in the powers. It's in, we've got to leave it to the powers that be, but we've got to try and influence them as much as we can before they make those decisions. So what would you say then, Nikki, if there is somebody listening to this right now who perhaps is in Scotland already and they're thinking they would like to become a celebrant, what's your advice to them?
First and foremost, do your research. Do your homework. You have to understand that in Scotland, you need to train with the organisation that you would like to join.
Yes.
You have to do that. So therefore, you have to go in and do your research. Who, as I say, Fulcrum don't do training, but whose organisation fits with your values, fits with your belief? Where are you going to feel comfortable standing up and giving, encouraging people to take on your belief or faith or be aware of it? Do your research. Unfortunately, there's a downside to this, Laura, because a lot of the time in Scotland, people are just looking for their authorisation.
Yeah, that's it.
And as a result, a lot of people end up in places where it is the only place they could get a space.
Wow.
And I have experienced this every single week. These two are not related. Every single week I'm approached by people to join Fulcrum.
Yeah, I bet you are.
And I've done a video on my page about why not everybody is part of Fulcrum. That's not worked out. But for me, quite often, Laura, I do get things and I think, you do not care about our beliefs. You've not done your homework. You've not even been on the website.
Yeah.
You've not done anything. And, excuse me, and here you are. Oh, I'd love to join Fulcrum. And it's not. They're looking for their authorisation.
Yeah, that's it. They just want that. Exactly. Yeah. And not being done for the right reasons by the sounds of it.
For you to find your home in Scotland as a celebrant, you need to do your homework. You need to look at how the organisation presents itself.
Yeah.
You need to look at its values and beliefs. You need to look at how they engage with their customers. You need to look at their reviews. You need to look at the personalities, the faces that are on the pages. Are these people you feel that you could work with? Are these the type of people that are your type of people? It's not just celebrant. Scotland is so often driven by authorisation because I don't think there's a couple in Scotland that doesn't expect to be legally married on the day.
Because that's the way it's done now. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think...
So you've got people who do... Sorry, Laura.
No, it's okay. Go on.
I was just going to say, so you've got people who have done a Celebrant Training course. They'll launch into the celebrant world and they suddenly realise unless they've got authorisation, they're not able to build bookings.
Yes.
They're not able to build bookings. So therefore then they start scrambling around trying to find how to do this, and that's not the best place to make a judgment call about what organisation you fit with, what organisation's your home.
Yeah, that should be done in the early initial stages before you even start. And then, like you say, that's where you then train with that organisation and know that aligns with yours. Absolutely. Yeah, totally agree. Yeah. Well, fingers crossed then we can get to that stage where we can be UK-wide, legally certified wedding celebrants, that we can all come and go as we please, and I'll come and do some ceremonies in Scotland and you can come and do some down here. That would be fantastic. Wishful thinking, but hopefully
that sounds good.
It would be so good. I'll tell you what you need to do, Nikki. You need to get Fulcrum Celebrants and take over the world. That's what it needs to be, and you need to be in charge of it all.
Okay.
Sold.
All right then.
Well, thank you so much for coming on, Nikki. You've been absolutely fantastic. So if people want to find out more about Fulcrum Celebrants, whether they're based in Scotland or not, whether they just want to kind of have a little bit, of a nosy about what you guys are up to and how it all works there, where can they find you?
www.fulcrumcelebrants.co.uk.
Perfect. And then you're on Instagram yourself as?
Niki Smith Celebrant.
Perfect. Amazing.
And there's, just as a wee by the by, my page is used a lot for tips, and I've got a video up there about people trying to be celebrants in Scotland. I've got a video up there about, there's loads. My grid is interspersed with a lot of industry information in Scotland. So not even to look at me, but it gives people some insights in that as well.
Fantastic. Well, Nikki, thank you so much again for coming on. You've been awesome. And let's hope we get to chat again soon, and fingers crossed get to work together one day.
I've really enjoyed it. You've asked brilliant questions, and it's been really lovely. And thank you so much for inviting me on.
You're so welcome, and we'll catch up soon. Thanks, Nikki.
Okay, bye.